Carina Hargrave had lost everything, her husband, her daughter, in a crash that shattered her life, leaving behind nothing but pain and heartbreak. Grief had hollowed her out, leaving her with nothing but an aching void. She couldn't stay in the city, not with every corner reminding her of the life she once had. And so she sought a new beginning, far from everything familiar. She found Ashford Manor, an old mansion located on the outskirts of a sleepy town, far from the chaos of her former life. One road in, one road out, surrounded by nothing but endless fields, mist rolling in like a blanket every morning. The house loomed large, a forgotten relic of a time long past. The locals whispered of its dark history. The manor was infamous for its strange atmosphere, and rumors swirled about the Ashford family, whose name was tied to a tragedy no one dared speak of. But Carina thought she could find peace there. The manor was silent when she arrived. The door creaked open without her touching it. A cold breeze rushed out. She stepped inside, hoping the quiet would bring solace. But instead, it felt like the house was watching her, waiting for her. That first night, Carina lay in bed, her body exhausted but her mind restless. The house groaned as though it were alive. Shadows danced along the walls, stretching unnaturally. The air was thick, heavy, and the silence, it was suffocating. The whispers started soon after. At first, Carina thought it was the wind, or perhaps the old wood creaking as the house settled. But as the minutes passed, the whispers grew louder. Carina, she froze. Her heart pounded in her chest. It wasn't the wind, it was a voice, soft, chilling, and unmistakable. Someone or something was calling her name. The next morning, she told herself it was just her mind playing tricks. She had been through too much, the grief, the trauma, but every night the whispers returned. They came from the attic, the walls, the floorboards. They followed her wherever she went. Sleep came in fits and starts, but it never brought rest. And the whispers, they didn't stop. The next morning, she told herself it was just her mind playing tricks. She had been through too much, the grief, the trauma, but every night the whispers returned. They came from the attic, the walls, the floorboards. They followed her wherever she went. Sleep came in fits and starts, but it never brought rest. And the whispers, they didn't stop. Desperate to understand, Carina reached out to George, a local historian who had lived in the town his entire life. She found him in the town cafe, sitting quietly as the warm glow of lanterns lit the room. Carina wrapped her hands around her coffee cup, trying to steady her nerves. "Do you know anything about Ashford Manor?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. George rested his hands on the table, studying her intently. His expression grew somber. "The Ashfords were a wealthy family," he began slowly. "But their youngest son, Mark, he vanished years ago. No one knows what happened to him. Some say his spirit still wanders the manor. They say the house is cursed." Carina laughed nervously, shaking her head. "Cursed? That sounds like one of those old ghost stories. I've heard worse." Carina stepped through the cafe doors, the cold evening air hitting her face like a warning. George followed close behind, his steps steady, the weight of years of secrets in his eyes. "Are you sure you want to do this?" George asked, lowering his voice as they moved out onto the sidewalk. Carina didn't slow down. "If there's even a chance the truth is inside Ashford Manor, I need to see it for myself." George sighed, glancing back toward the warm cafe they'd left behind. "People have tried before, Carina. They never come back the same." Carina stopped, turning to face him, her expression resolute. Then they weren't ready. I am. George studied her for a moment, seeing a spark of determination he hadn't seen in anyone for a long time. Finally, he nodded. I'll take you there. But you have to promise me one thing. What's that? That if something feels wrong, anything at all, you leave. No hesitation. Carina's jaw tightened, but she agreed. Fine. I promise. They turned and continued down the street, the fading daylight casting long shadows behind them. As they walked, a chill settled in Carina's bones, but she refused to let it shake her. Ashford Manor was waiting, and so were its ghosts. The next night, Carina walked through the manor, restless. She found herself drawn toward the attic, as though something was pulling her in. The whispers were louder now, almost as if they were calling her, urging her to come closer. The attic door creaked open by itself, and Carina stepped inside. The room was filled with dust, old furniture covered in sheets and forgotten memories. And then she saw him, a pale figure standing in the corner, his eyes empty, his face twisted in a haunting expression. Mark Ashford. He didn't move, but his eyes followed her every step. Carina took a step back, her breath catching in her throat. She was frozen in place, unable to speak. Mark, she whispered, barely able to form the word. The ghostly figure's mouth moved, but no sound came out, only the cold, oppressive silence of the house. Then his eyes locked onto hers, his gaze filled with sorrow and rage. She took a shaky step forward. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice breaking. "I was betrayed," Mark's voice whispered through her mind, echoing like a distant memory. The room seemed to shake, the walls groaning as though the house itself was coming alive. Carina stumbled backward, her heart racing, but Mark didn't let her go. The house had secrets, dark secrets buried deep. Carina couldn't shake the feeling that she was getting closer to something terrible. The next day, she began searching the manor, scouring every inch for answers. She found old letters, diaries, and even a hidden room where the past had been locked away. The truth was there, waiting to be uncovered. Mark Ashford had found something he shouldn't have. He'd uncovered the family's darkest secret, a murder. His own family had killed him to keep the truth hidden. The betrayal ran deep. The deeper Carina dug, the more the house seemed to react. It wasn't just haunted by Mark's ghost. There were other forces at work here, something ancient, something dark. Carina's search led her to the cellar, the place where it all began. The air grew colder as she descended into the darkness, her heart pounding. And then she found it. Mark's body, hidden away in the shadows, untouched by time. The house shook violently. The whispers grew louder, more frantic. "You've found me," Mark's voice echoed, filled with pain. But there was something else, something darker, a presence lurking in the corners of the room. It wasn't just Mark's ghost, it was something much worse. Carina ran. She couldn't stay there any longer. George had left earlier, but the house had become too much, the pressure too overwhelming. She tried to leave, but the doors wouldn't open. The windows were sealed shut. She was trapped. Mark's ghost appeared again, this time more menacing. His eyes were full of rage, and the whispers were deafening. "You can't leave," he said. "You will never leave." Carina ran through the house, desperate to escape. She reached the front door, pulling and pushing, but nothing worked. She could feel the house closing in around her, its grip tightening with each passing second. But then, as if the house had grown tired of its game, the door swung open. Carina stumbled outside, gasping for air. The night was cold, the sky dark and empty. Ashford Manor loomed behind her, silent once again. But Carina knew the truth. She hadn't escaped. The house would never let her go. It was a curse that would follow her for the rest of her life.